All right, I'll call the meeting to order. We didn't meet last week, so there's no minutes from last week, but last week we should have approved the minutes from the previous week. I've read those and didn't see anything. Did you see anything, Jack?
No, I'll make a motion to approve them as distributed.
And I will second that. All those in favor, aye?
Aye,
Aye. Jack, do you have a camera?
I do. Why is it not showing up?
I don't know. Maybe Ron blocked you so.
No, there I am. Hold on. No. There I
There
am.
we go. All right. Whoop. It
Went
didn't
back
last
out
long.
again.
Had you for a minute, Jack.
It's just for a, there you go.
There you go.
All right. Yeah, fine.
All right, cool. All right, we'll get down through the agenda. The next thing on the agenda was, we said we're going to rediscuss every 2 weeks the reopening of town hall. I don't know if much has changed since 2 weeks ago.
Well, if I can just say it, you just have to listen to the news. It really hasn't. I think as far as staff, we'd be willing to open the lobby on early COVID protocols. In other words, these spacing inside, and but I would really, the state's still climbing. Actually, the country, I guess, is going. This is far from over, guys, and I'm trying. If we get an outbreak in town hall, as busy as we are, I guess we can't. But this helps. We still can't control people when they're off duty, out of the office and stuff. So even though we're inoculated, they're starting to get people get sick even with the inoculation. Well, fortunately, not dying, but it's still out there. So obviously, it's up to you guys. We'll make it happen, whatever you do. But
We still have at least one employee in town hall that has not been.
I believe she got her first shot. I believe.
But,
Yes.
I
So
mean, I know since 2 weeks ago she can't have gotten 2 shots.
no. So, but my
Unless you got Johnson and Johnson, then that's a one-shot deal.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what.
Quick
So-
question, OJ.
She got the Pfizer.
She got a Pfizer, okay.
Yeah, so 28 days after her first shot, she'll get the second.
OJ, would it behoove us to have at least the Board of Selectmen meet in the town hall live? And, people could come in via Zoom?
I
Are we
would be
putting
open.
anybody in jeopardy? That's the question, I guess.
I mean, I would certainly be open to that. I've had my vaccinations and I'm certainly comfortable going in there, again, wearing masks, sitting 6 feet apart like we started out doing. But then, there's staff that would need to be there also.
Well, the
or
only
no,
staff would be who? Ron, really?
No, we got Jane, she takes minutes, myself, so at minimum.
Well, you're in town hall every day, as is Jane, right?
Correct.
Well, it's food for thought, I guess. Start small, go
I
big.
mean, the timing, if we started next Monday, the schools across the state are going mandatory full-time on the 19th. That would make sense. I mean, if the schools are going to do it, I hear in the schools that are going, it's not working out well. Our local Campton school, I guess, has had an outbreak. But anyway, that would be timing to match what a big part of the state is the school systems. So timing it with that, I don't know, whatever you guys think.
Well, Butch, again, question for you. Would Jane have the option of, calling in remote and taking the minutes remotely?
I think I
That's
mean,
what she's
like I
doing
said,
now, right?
Yeah, that's what we're doing now. So
Yeah, so I
the
mean, you know,
purpose,
I wouldn't want to jeopardize any of the staff, obviously.
yeah, I mean,
Select people are dispensable, staff are not.
well, I mean, we'd still have to, I would hope that we would still have the social distancing and the,
Oh,
so
absolutely.
it wouldn't be a big group of people who would be
Be-
allowed into the meetings anyway live. So
No,
first come, first serve, I guess. That's what we did for a few months when a year and a half, something ago, when we started this. So
has Tammy received her shots, do we know?
I know she's had one.
Okay.
I don't know the status.
I don't know.
She shared that with me freely, that she'd got her first shot, but I don't believe it's been time for a second. I don't know that though.
Well, we could have her weigh in on this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, just to add to this, if we started doing it next week, the following week on the 26th, I'm not going to be at the meeting, whether you do it by Zoom or by live. So I wouldn't be at that meeting, and I don't know when Tamara's going to be back. So maybe it's something we do in May. You know, unless you want to do it for one meeting next week, but then it'd be a couple of weeks before we did it again.
Well, whatever consensus is. I mean, again, I just throw out the idea.
Yeah. I think, Tammy shared with me today that she does not know when she'll be back live, back in
Here in
person. So
person.
that is a consideration. I'm naturally, whether you're here, I mean, you still can't have a meeting with us, either Zoom or in person. Tammy could, if she could chime in remotely, I guess she could attend. So, you know, if she's available even remotely.
Well, hopefully she'll be available on the 26th, or we won't have a meeting that week, even if she can be available by Zoom. But then maybe let's shoot for May 3rd for being back at Town Hall.
Sounds good.
Yep, and I'll start prepping things and make sure we've got the setups that we had, you know, when we first started, so we can do that. So May 3rd works for us.
All right, and you know, if Jane wanted to meet or join remotely,
Fine.
Yeah, obviously, I'll leave it up
I don't-
to them. We have the technology. So
Yeah.
like department heads, if it was something they need to attend, they can,
Yeah.
then in person, or they can come in remote. You know, we'll make it work.
All right. You had on the agenda employee COVID-19 policy. Are there changes that you're proposing to make?
Yeah, there's some changes. I believe you have, or emailed, or you have the proposed changes, probably via email. There was a, and Jane, jump in here. You emailed them the draft copy, correct?
So you wanted, before we sent them the draft, Butch, you want to discuss the part about the
Oh, yeah.
extended family medical leave. That's the one point.
Yeah,
So in
okay.
other words, if you can go ahead and explain to them what that is. With paying employees, the town would pick up 2/3 and the employee 1/3. It was part of the extended family medical, Family First Coronavirus Act.
Yeah,
And we had the opportunity to continue with it, but it technically expired March 31st.
so the first one was mandatory.
Correct.
It was the 80 hours over and above any vacation or sick time an employee had. We had to give an additional 80 hours paid leave during that first for Families First Coronavirus Act that expired this March 31st. They now have extended that to
September.
September of 2021, but it's voluntary. Okay, if we keep that in place. I don't care. I think it's, if someone has to take care of someone with, any of the COVID or the viruses that are accompanying it, or the sickness that's going on, except that I don't have it in the budget. We have a potential chance of recovering some of it. But if we don't, if for whatever reason, it's not in the budget. Okay, so I've started, I actually told one employee that we weren't going to continue it, then thought better of it and thought I'd better run it by you guys. It's not mandatory. They can still, obviously, they have their own, they have sick leave, they have vacation time. But for those with, families and that need to arrange for daycare or sick relative, it was a thing that was put in place. So I've polled quite a few towns, and it's all over the map. I would say the majority of towns are not continuing it, but some are. Some are taking it through till September. And if we iron that out, then our COVID policy needs to be updated. There will also be updates on on travel. We've updated that, as long as they've changed the COVID policies. If you're vaccinated, then you can travel and don't have to quarantine if you're exposed, and all that stuff, the latest in that, so that our current policy in the town of Lincoln is up to speed. But the big thing is this Family First COVID Response Act update, and whether or not we're going to participate.
And go ahead, Jack.
I have a question, obviously. So if an employee has a sick leave and or vacation time on the books, are they required to use that first prior to this additional leave kicking in?
No,
They're not.
no.
Could
This
we
is
make
additional-
that?
This would be, no, this would be, it's my understanding, the way the first one that just expired, that was over and above. They didn't have to risk their vacation, or there was an additional 80 hours. At the formula that Jane said, 2/3 would be us, a third would be us, 2/3 would be the Coronavirus Act.
No, excuse me, it's the
But the other way
reverse.
around.
It's 2/3 the town of Lincoln will pick up, the employee contributes 1/3.
Right.
Okay.
And could the town of Lincoln be reimbursed through the PPE money?
No, it's done through a tax credit.
It's tax credits,
Okay.
and we haven't, so far, the town hasn't applied for tax credits.
What do you mean?
Has
What do you mean?
anybody used it?
Well, the tax credits wouldn't apply to the town.
I
That'd
say,
be
we don't
just a
get-
private business.
Yeah,
That'd be
But-
private
but-
businesses.
Butch, has anybody requested the leave prior to March 31st?
Yes,
How many
We had-
individuals?
I believe we had, I think 2 individuals. Jane, am I correct on that?
1, 2, 3,
Oop.
4 people have needed it because, for example, their child wasn't allowed to go to school or daycare because they had the sniffles. So the parent would have to stay home. Anything COVID related.
Mhm. And how many days in total amongst the 4 employees did it entail, Jane? Do you know?
How long were they out?
Total
Total.
between all 4 of them.
I'd have to get that from Jonna.
Okay.
That I don't know. However, there was an 80-hour cap on it.
Mhm.
So it was 80 hours. Once that 80 hours expired, like if they exceeded that,
Right.
then they were on their own.
They're on their own. Yeah.
Yeah, we had one employee, had to take care of parents
Yes,
who caught COVID. That one was pretty much the 80 hours or close to it.
Mhm.
So yeah, it got used. So that didn't affect their accumulated leave time or sick time.
Okay, thank you.
So the new law is allowing us, but not mandating, that we can, if we want to, extend this coverage through till the end of September, so 6 more months.
Correct.
Okay, and then starting on hour 1, the town would cover 2/3 of their pay, and the employee absorbs the
Third.
1/3.
Yeah.
Up to 80 hours.
correct.
All right. I mean, I can see 2 different angles on this. One is that we have good employees. These are circumstances that are, rare. A pandemic like this is an exceptional circumstance, and we want to be accommodating. On the other hand, number one, if employees choose not to get themselves vaccinated or live with people who choose not to get vaccinated, that's putting, their choice is putting the town at risk in many ways, by contaminating or spreading to other employees, but also financially by getting sick themselves and costing us money to do that. I don't know how many employees are choosing not to, but that's one of the down, and I know we can't discriminate. We can't say, well, if you
No.
get vaccinated, you can't do that. So we either subsidize that or not. Jack, do you have any?
Well,
Failing-
one way around it, and again, I guess you'd run it by council, is employees that have chosen not to follow CDC guidelines, which is vaccination, would not be eligible.
Yeah, I think that's, but I'll double check, Jack, but I think I pretty much know, I think I know what the answer would be to that is.
Yeah.
your
I think I
policy
might
has to
too,
be-
but that's all
Yeah.
right.
I'll double check, but
And the other thing is if, like, let's say someone chose to go somewhere out of the country and needed to quarantine when they get back, does this cover just quarantine by choice?
no, well, no, the quarantine guidelines, and I'd have Ron chime in here on that, have been pretty much, that's addressed in the new guidance from CDC guidance, which we'd accumulate, which covers the travel guidance.
Mhm.
And if they have had both their shots, in other words, they get their cards and they can travel. That mean, right now you can't get out of the country unless you have your card. Then I think that pretty much says it. Am I right, Ron? Am I on
Yeah, you're
point with
correct.
that?
So, yes, so a fully vaccinated person and 14 days have gone by can travel without having to quarantine. And upon, coming back, obviously monitor for symptoms. And if you have an onset of symptoms, then, you need to quarantine. But it's all by choice. I mean, we can't tell anybody to vaccinate or whatever, and we can't penalize them because they didn't. And some people may not vaccinate due to health concerns. So it's kind of a tough spot for you folks to be in to make that decision,
And I just, I think if we get a chance to, well, we won't get a chance to recoup cash. So I just want to say that we didn't extend this beyond, and it's not in the budget. So if we get a run on people taking advantage of this, 2/3 of salaries is on us. I just want you to be aware of that. That's,
So really, the only people that would take advantage of it if they are not diagnosed with COVID and have an exposure are people that chose not to be vaccinated. Otherwise, if you've been exposed but you're fully vaccinated and 14 days have gone by, you don't need to quarantine. So maybe one of the stipulations is that, if you quarantine and test positive, you get to show that you've tested positive to qualify for that program.
What
You know,
about
and
the
I think-
circumstances though, where they're taking care of a
Children or other family
Child.
members. Yeah,
child who
Yeah.
can't get,
Yeah.
yeah.
that's
Vaccinated.
the thing.
But you do get test results if a family member does go and get tested, and if you're taking care of that person, obviously there'd be some proof there. I don't know.
Right.
Obviously, you probably should talk to counsel before you do anything.
The I'm going to be a little bit of black-hearted here, but I think we provided it for a year, over a year, a little bit over, and as many of my fellow town administrators and managers and their communities are doing is, now we don't provide it, and sick leave and vacation are your choice. That's my recommendation, and my biggest part of that is we just didn't budget for it, and with the if nobody puts in claims, then we're golden, but and if it was a sickness or a car accident or something other than COVID,
Right,
people would make it work.
it wouldn't matter, right?
It's life, so I don't know. And I got it. It's not an easy decision, but it was bigger than my corner office. So I'd like you guys to chime in on it.
Butch, would you send out that memo then? I don't believe that I've received that.
Okay, well, I stand corrected. I thought Jane had shipped it off to you. It's in draft form, but I listening to Jane, we wanted to have this discussion on the extending the FFCRA benefits. And then we can either leave it out of that or put it in it before you see the draft. I guess that's what this is about. So,
All right. I'd like to just see it.
okay.
You want to
Thanks.
wait, Jack, and make the decision next meeting?
Yeah, after we've seen it, the document, and maybe.
I'll tell
we
you
can
what,
look at the document.
we'll put the FFCRA in the draft
Yeah,
wording so that you see what it looks like. We'll highlight it. I'll have Jane highlight it, and then you can either say take it out or leave it. And in the meantime, I'll check with NHMA, the attorneys down there, and see what their input is on mixing and matching or anything.
Right.
All right, but in the meantime, that has expired and it's not valid unless next week we put it back, we change the policy to include it.
Correct, and the travel policy as well is still, as you approved it, we haven't updated the travel policy, but frankly, that travel policy by CDC is pretty much cut and dried. I mean, it's very clear and precise. So I don't know, we may have one police officer or police personnel that are currently traveling on vacation in the US. So, it wouldn't be a big, that's easily interpretable. So, because I'm sure you guys want to stay updated with CDC anyway, so.
I say, is there anything in the policy that needs to be updated travel-wise to comply with CDC, or does the policy
Yes.
just?
Yes, this draft is updating to the current
Okay. so
CDC travel
send-
guidelines. Yes.
Send, as Jack said, send that out with the language for the continuation, and we'll make the decision on that next week.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right, Jane, you all set with that, Jane?
Perfect. It'll go out tomorrow morning.
All
Okay.
right, cool. All right, next on the agenda is the short-term rental registration, and Lisa sent out a list of 280
Yep.
units that have been registered and paid for.
Correct. And what I'm gonna do is, I believe you got an update actually today, yes, today, from, I believe, Lisa, that gave a total today she received, 14 new registrations based on our mailing. She said she has 2 that are in the mail per notification of unit owners. Not sure what that meant, but 14 of those unit owners responded they are not doing STRs this year, and 2 were returned to sender. That took us, I believe there's a memo that I think Jane put out, or Jane, and I asked them to summarize the hours that it took
Mhm.
to do this.
All right.
And it was a lot. Okay. Jane worked, and I'm going to ask Jane to chime in here if I go off thing. She spent, I believe, 16 or 17 hours, 2 days straight, going through that list. And even then we had people that got mail. We had quite a few upset people call back and wanting to know how we found them. One gentleman says we had better make sure our attorney read the letter. We had no authority to have that info. Quite ingeniously, I think Ron may have assisted us, but we literally pulled the meals and rooms from the state of New Hampshire. Actually, the 2019 or 2019 list, so it wasn't even the most updated, with close to 800, 700 or 800 properties on it that were on the list. They literally went through that list, and then the mailing was sent out based on that. And obviously, that doesn't catch anyone who capture. I don't want to say capture anyone who pays their rooms and meals taxes through a platform, Airbnb,
Airbnb or
Airbnb, HomeAway. They paid that, so it wouldn't capture any of them. And so we obviously have people who have no intention of responding to us. And to, I don't want to sound like broken. I just don't have the staff time to do. It's more than, I think, I forget I don't know who it was. Somebody
come
said
on.
it's going to take one person, regardless of how computer savvy or whatever they are, an inordinate amount of time to track the policy as written and get the compliance that voluntary or otherwise that we were looking for. I don't know what the answer is. Tammy, in a short conversation today, said, well, her thought was for consideration is fine if someone doesn't respond, but if we catch them, we are made aware that there's a short-term renting going on, hit them in the pocketbook. And she said, the tune like $2,500, make it hurt. I don't, other than that, I don't know what the answer is. I know Jane and Lisa in particular, Ron, to the extent that he had time, were awesome. I heard Jane talking to some of the people who called in who had, and we had people that we put on the list that we had no way of cross-referencing, and they called in and they were able to supply us with their cancel checks and that they had paid. and then Jane was, yeah, Jane is closest, so I can hear some of the conversation. She was awesome and saying, we appreciate you. We're sorry for the inconvenience, but for those, thank you for spending the $50 and registering, but we have hundreds of people who haven't. And so we're trying to, and most people, and Jane can chime in here, most people thanked Jane and Lisa for trying to follow up, and they believed in the registration. But I don't know how we can do this, guys, with in-house. I really don't. And I'm thinking a well-intentioned ordinance went into place, and I don't think we saw the magnitude of what it was going to take to enforce just this one ordinance. I think it's bigger than I thought it was. I guess that's so I just give that to you. We're going to keep pecking away at it. I know they were working, a few minutes, but I've got to keep them focused on their other stuff in the office too. So.
Yep, go ahead, Jack.
I mean, the primary duties obviously come first, but couldn't agree with you more on that. But I think they've done a great job combined, with coming up with these numbers. I have personally talked with 3 individuals who say they can possibly do it. I didn't throw out any prices. I said maybe $1,000 or $2,000. I said, but that's not my decision. That's a board's decision or the town manager's decision. I've also got calls into Airbnb and VRBO, and there's a third one as the largest ones that I'm aware of as far as the platforms. As we've heard, there's multiple, maybe 50 platforms out there. But it can be done. And again, we don't have to do it in-house. We've already got $14,000 right now that we can play with, not play with, but, use wisely, spend wisely. It's taxpayer money. Spend it wisely on maybe doing some of this work on an outside basis without committing the town to a long-term process with this. I think once people are identified and we can pass another ordinance that maybe increases the fees, if we can find, as I said before, if we can find 500 at $200 a piece, there's $100,000. That's more than ample to hire somebody, pay for the benefit package and what have you. So it's not costing our taxpayers, it's costing people that are making money, a portion of that. But if you're making, $20,000, $30,000 a year off of rentals, $20,500 is nothing.
Yeah.
And the average rate we heard was $221. The average nightly rental rate was $221. So
yeah, we just so you know, we just turned the water on to a house on, can't remember what street. But the owner of that property has it's strictly a short-term rental, and they have it for, I think it's $1,200 a night,
Yeah.
and it's rented. So yeah. It's
and again, Butch, and I'm speaking to the choir here, but I think for taxpayers that are listening in, it's not so much about money, it's more so about safety, because we don't want kids stuck in attics and stuck in basements that don't meet the state standard of safety codes. And I mean, Ron's doing a great job following up with those, but that's what we emphasize, not about dough. It's about safety for children in particular.
I agree. So that's just an update on that, and we'll keep pecking away at it. And
I will too.
And we'll. So anyway,
Can I just ask a question? So, because I know Lisa would like to know what is our next step then? Because based on the ordinance, there, like right now, after April 1st, there should be $100 fine. 10 days from that, the people have been notified. I believe it goes up to $500. So I'm just not sure. I feel our hands are tied as far as next steps. I mean,
I think what I'd suggest, Jane, thank you. I think what I'd suggest is we have the ordinance in place. Perfect or imperfect, it's in place. You folks have approved it. It has a an escalating thing. So we got 14 in today. They're in at the $100 application fee now, and we'll take care of that. In 10 days from now, anybody comes in, it's $500. And
Is that
the
right?
word I don't know how we can spread the word anymore. We have spent a year advertising this, including in tax mailings. And we're capable, it's just that even people who call in, I don't know, Jane can tell you, she's on the phone probably 10 minutes with even someone that we have sent a letter to who paid, who's, easily checked, oh, we're sorry, we sent it. And we explained the story to them, but that's 10 or 15 minutes in a conversation away from other duties. So that's what we've got here. So, so I don't think we have to rush, but I think really neat thing. I like Jack's idea as we inch through the year here. The monies that we do have, well, not banked, but we have offsetting revenue that's obviously in the general, goes into the general budget, but we have offsetting revenue that we could look to maybe a more professional group, and maybe even, someone who tracks this stuff for a living. But that's, so I think it's laid out, unless obviously if the board doesn't feel that way, but other than that, we stick to the thing. And, it's not going to be a easy pill to swallow, but I don't know what the date is, but 10 days from it goes up to $500. Well, it's $500 now. You've had over a year to get back to us. You didn't. So, and then I don't know where it goes from there. I haven't read it for a while, but that's my suggestion.
Go ahead, Jack.
Again, I would say you have, an ordinance on the books, has some teeth in it, enforce it. Again, when tax bills go out the next round, let's send out a friendly reminder to everybody in the town. If you know somebody, or you have a friend that knows somebody that is renting, please, here's the, ordinance as in effect. And, we want to get a safety as the primary reason for doing this.
Yeah, and I think and Jane, because Jane's the only one on, I don't see Lisa. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, the people who have contacted us, at least for the best of my knowledge, that even though we made a mistake and sent them a thing and they'd already paid, they were extremely happy that we were chasing down those that hadn't, because they realized what we were trying to do. So maybe those folks, maybe listening to this, will do just what Jack says, is if they're in a complex or they're in a group of homes that they know they can put some pressure on too. I mean, it's life safety, it's health, it's a whole bunch of stuff. So good.
I had an idea. I know Danielle Black has been extremely frustrated, and we do have pretty good relationships with management companies, like up at Clearbrook, Forest Ridge. I was wondering if we should reach out to them. I know Danielle will, in a heartbeat, provide a list of units that she knows are participating in short-term rentals. And that could be a way of us to attain more information on who is doing it, particularly if they're using a platform that we're unable to access. Because if I go on Airbnb, I could see a unit. Ron is better than me. Ron can say, oh yeah, that's up at South Peak. I wouldn't know that. And you don't, until you pay with your credit card, you don't get the address of the location.
Right.
Right.
So I thought maybe by appealing to some of our larger condo associations, and again, I don't want to just take it upon myself, but I think it would be probably a good way to go about doing it, above and beyond what Lisa and I just finished doing, and Ron, to get more information on who's doing it, because they're not forthright. People are not coming forward.
We could check. I think Jane and I had this conversation. I think some associations might some, obviously their board of directors would have to agree to that. I think but it'd be certainly worth, if you guys agree, I think it would be worth a shot if they're willing to participate. And obviously I'm sure there's political ramifications inside associations for releasing names and stuff like that. But I think we certainly, from a life safety issue and health and safety, I wouldn't want to say like health and safety issues alone, they'd want the town at their side, but maybe not.
Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, just so we're real clear and everything, when we crafted this ordinance and everything, it wasn't to discourage
No,
short-term rentals.
no.
And we were hoping that we would get a rather large number of compliance and registrations, and it more was so that we have good contact info in case of emergency and address any possible life safety. I just don't want people that might view this up on YouTube that, we're going to hunt you down and blah, blah, blah. We're just looking in everybody's best interest and level the playing field for all the short-term renters in the town of Lincoln, and provide the best service that we can, police, fire, and emergency services, because we need contact info, and that's why we did all this.
Very good. Thank you, Ron.
Yeah.
That's a good slant that we can't forget to stress, because that is exactly why we put it in. I believe our letter was along those lines. So
How about, I don't want this to be a major focus of the town staff to try to find all of these people. However, I think a couple of things we could do. Number one is include a letter in the July tax bill.
yeah,
Again, a reminder, and maybe we kind of look at what Ron said and put that in the letter, that the goal of this isn't to eliminate or restrict or in any way, eliminate short-term rentals, that we realize that that's part of what's going on in this town. And what we really want is some oversight on the life safety issues and getting contact information. Also to deal with the nuisance neighborhood issues that have come up, that we want, a contact person to help the town deal with some of these issues. And send that letter out in the tax bills that go out to everyone, everyone on the list. And then, Jane's suggestion of maybe contacting homeowners association or rental management companies that work in town, and just let them know that we're not trying to outlaw these or eliminate them or whatever. We're trying to just gather the information so that when there is an issue, we can be aware, get in touch with someone, and that we can also identify some of the life safety issues that might be involved, especially with these units that have 6 beds in an attic and things like that. And it seems like a letter and a mailing list to homeowners associations and management associations would not be a huge consumption of time. And maybe that's something we could get done, over the next month or so before the July tax bills go out.
I agree. I think we'll give that a shot. We'll go right to the associations to see if they can. I know there's a couple of associations that they're within their associations, they're at odds. There's enough issues that there's groups within the associations who want to see it banned from their association. That's internal. I know of at least 2, and obviously there's those that are pro, so their boards of directors are being pulled in different directions. So, but that's them. It's not us. We're more concerned with the life, health and safety of folks going to those units.
Yep.
Okay.
Good. Oh, go ahead, Jack.
I'm just gonna say, included in that letter, make sure we include a copy of the ordinance.
Yep. Yeah, and just because we're on public, I mean, so we've already, April 1st has gone by.
Yep.
We've done the written warning thing and first round, and we've gotten responses. Just want everybody, the first offense after the written warning, which has gone out, we're already getting them back. It moves to $100 permit fee. Second offense, which is 10 days after the first offense goes out, is $500. And the additional offenses, which again are 10 days after the second offense, and then 10 days each after each mailing, are $1,000 each. So there is it does have teeth. It does have teeth in the current, that adds up pretty quickly. So I would hope people
Right.
would listening to this would help us comply, and we can do this. So, all right, we got it.
Don't forget that first offense is from a unit owner that was sent notice of this ordinance.
Yes,
Now,
they have to be noticed. Yeah.
right, and that went out to that list of previous rooms and rentals
Yep.
taxpayers. So if they weren't on that list, they've not received.
Written warning.
Okay, if we send this out in the tax bills in July, as Jack said, with the ordinance, I would consider that written notice.
Yep. Yeah, because the first one went out. The first one out in the tax bill wasn't. That was just the ordinance was going out. So this will be the warning. The next one, July.
This will be a letter.
Yep.
I'm thinking if we can do the letter on one side and the ordinance, well, it might take up more than one page, but anyway, send out the letter with the ordinance in the tax bill, and they'll be duly notified, and then we can start the, finding people that were notified. We know they're notified because we're going to notify every taxpayer.
Right.
Yep.
All right.
Okay. All right. Good.
All right. Next on the agenda is Kank Rec parking lot upgrades.
Yep, that's it's been on the list to discuss, and I believe you guys wanted to, or something you wanted on as an agenda item. And I met with Nate over to the Kank. Obviously, we did a couple 3 years ago now. We did some surveying and for the lot across the street from the Kank. That's still on the books. Obviously, since then, we've gotten numerous letters of abutters to that small piece of property, not just one. I think just about every abutter around that property is not in favor of clear cut, turning that into a parking lot. So we have that issue. We also did a survey of the Kank property, primarily that small piece across the street, but it extended in. And, as you remember, we looked at several suggestions of expansion to include putting in some closed drainage in that swale that along Forest Service Road and extending the parking out. But that had its issues with safety as far as entering and exiting. In other words, having defined entrance, defined exit. We'd have to keep that. There was suggestions to expand the parking lot into the old sliding hill, which could be done. Creating a new sliding hill. There was a suggestion, I think, to have a sliding hill on the skis or the basketball court side. So anyway, reviewing all of that, the sliding hill on the ski slope side, I actually went over and walked. That's really not practical for safety concerns, plus paying customers versus the ski slope where they have to have tickets, etc. So in talking with Nate, if we're going to something has to be done to that parking lot. What he wants to stress, and I don't see Nate on. He wants to stress is regardless, we've got to do something. That parking lot is breaking up every time they plow. It needs to be done, and he'd like to get it paved. If we do anything there, I think and Nate was all about this, was that we extend that parking lot into the old sliding hill. He feels that could be a project, could be done in-house. If with the staff that they have now, we might have to rent a larger machine, but they could do that. And with clearing some trees, there's a little old roadway that goes uphill. We own all that land. We could create a small sliding hill there with the proper catch fencing, et cetera, so that sliders wouldn't end up in a parking lot. Would be the best way to go. Now, having said all that, there's obviously not a budget currently to do something like that. We do have to. We have some significant leaks in the snowmaking line over to the Kank. And Tara is on, but Tara's of the opinion that the snowmaking line should take priority, I believe, and she'll probably chime on here herself in a minute if I'm wrong. But so we have competing projects. So I don't know whoops. I don't know.
We do have a separate CIP set up for the parking lot project,
Okay.
That's
which
what
I think is what OJ was just thinking as well.
Yeah, but I'm not sure there's enough. I don't
Right.
think there's enough funds to fund it currently.
Correct. Well, if I'm reading it correctly, we have 20,000 in there and 5,000 going in this year into the parking lot. The snowmaking would be a totally separate, that would be under the Kink property line, the separate CIP line. But and just one more thing on talking to Nate and Ryan about the project, what's so appealing about this is by cutting into the now sledding hill to push that back in the property, they could actually gain a bunch of the fill they need for the project from that construction part. So even if it has to be done in like a separate phase thing, then they would still gain some by doing that.
So I think the decision for us as staff to know is where do you put this project from the board, put this project on, when do you want to see it done? And I'm confident after listening to Nate and Ryan, they could do that in-house. We wouldn't have to contract that out. It might mean it's a little bit slower project because they get diverted to emergencies in town, but it could be done. And I didn't even look to see what we had. So, but they wouldn't initially, it'd be all machine work. So rental of a machine and then obviously loam and seed would, once they're done, you'd want to return their excavation back to, so it looks good and all that. So, so anyway,
What kind of a sliding hill will we have if we get rid of the one we have now or put parking there? I mean, how will the new one compare to what we have existing?
I think we own upgrading and walk. I actually walked up in there the other day with Ryan, and it could make that, you could make it comparable to what's there now, except it would be turned. I'm gesturing, but if you're standing in the parking lot looking at the hill, it would go from the right-hand side and swing and you'd be looking either just slightly on an angle or uphill at about the same gradient. And the project obviously would need some sort of a catch fence, padded catch fence that people come up and just hit if it got really cooking. So you could would be, clear cutting the trees and That's about it. And, you know, stumping it and letting it grass in and then however they want to manage it, whether they decide to groom it or just let Mother Nature put snow on it, you know, which is what the sledding hill's done so far. Is just, well, I guess we did spray a little snow so they could push it up there, but it could be done. And we could expand that parking lot to so easily take care of the buses and that's when the issue is when they have the ski events there, the organized ski events, and that's my understanding. That's when the real traffic jam occurs. So I think we could do it. So.
Go ahead, Jack.
Well, first of all, I think that, you know, the leak in the snow making line should be taken care of first, obviously. And then it's a waste of water, which is a waste of money. Secondly, how far, Tara, into the existing sliding hill would they cut into to create additional spaces? Do you know, roughly?
I don't, oh, go ahead, Tara.
Yeah, so basically that where the existing downslope is to the sledding hill is where the new fall out would be, you know what I mean? So that they would completely push it back in so that you're not landing into the parking lot.
So
That
we
makes
talking 20, yeah, I mean, I've walked it with my grandson up and down there mucho times. So where it kind of flattens out there, that would be, and then they would take a portion, would they have to build a retaining wall there to hold back the soil from that?
He doesn't think so. He's looking at where they cut in grade wise, but that's where Butch was trying to say that where it's right now, heading like your fallout is into the rope tow.
Yeah.
They would tweak it so that your fallout is almost into like the entryway, like.
Okay, I know.
And to your point,
I was saying you're like
parking-
the south, which way was.
Yeah,
No.
and to your
All right.
point, Jack, the park, if you can visualize the slope of that existing, the existing hill now
Yeah,
would just, as best they can, they'd keep that slope and just push the parking lot,
Right.
excavate and push that parking lot. So we got parking lot, and then the gravels that they took out of that would be used to help shape the
to create a
sledding
berm
hill.
of some type and
Right, yes.
take people towards the
Yep.
entranceway there. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so it's mostly machine work, tree clearing and machine work. So I asked them several times that if they thought they could do it, and they're confident they can. So that would save us a lot of money, obviously. But they got other stuff that pops up too, so it wouldn't be, you know, stay on the job for 2 weeks because they have emergencies come up and broken water lines, whatever might
Well,
happen.
it would save us money over hiring someone to do the job.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure if it'd be less expensive to not move the sliding hill and just put a parking lot where we had talked about putting a parking lot on the other side of the road.
Well, that's
I'm
why we
guessing
got,
that'd be much less expensive.
yeah, it would. Yeah. But you do have resistance from a lot of people over there. That's, you know,
Who have we got? I know we have a letter from Paul Bowden,
yeah.
and there was,
There's another couple in there that
yeah, I
wrote
forget
a
the name,
letter.
but there was, I remember one other letter. And is there any more than those two?
So where
Seems to
Alan
be-
Patterson lives?
What's
Yes.
that?
Alan Patterson?
he
I
lives
believe
there.
Alan Patterson. Is he the first house on the, as you're coming down the road, right there on the left? Yeah, I believe he has expressed his desire for that not to happen.
All right, I'm sure Paul knows. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, there's one from Jack Patterson, and there's one from Charlene and Randy Boyle. And I think there's one other one that I don't have, but there's three or four total in there.
Okay, I
Four-
remember
four
Charlie.
sticks in my mind. I don't,
Yeah.
for some reason, 4 sticks in my mind.
Okay, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
I think Butch is right, yeah.
All right, thank you. Um.
And I don't think this has to be decided tonight.
No,
You just want to get it on your radar and
no,
I'll be
going
looking
back
for
to the
guidance.
water line. What's the,
snowmaking.
Yeah. What's the, is there a, do we know, even know what needs to be done there as far as a project and a price and idea and timeline?
The piping was put in and it was used piping whatever year. Tara can probably cite your chapter and verse, but it was old used pipe when it was put in. It's now just become porous. So it's all has to be replaced. So I think they've got numbers on the cost of materials. Again, the big cost there is going to be the welding. The pipes have to be welded together for the pressure. So it isn't, so that's an outside contractor. It has, you'd want it certified welder. So Tara, go ahead.
So Ryan met with Ken Mack to get his contractor and who they subcontract with for piping. And then met with who they recommend for a welder. And I have very detailed numbers on, it would be 2 weeks of a welder's costs, the hydrants, the fittings, the piping. And so the total package to redo what we have for existing would be $20,730. And then if we were to add 800 feet more piping to include papoose in the coverage, it would be an additional 5,500 for a total of 26,230.
And what do we have in CIP now, Tara?
For ski slope, we have 40,000.
So that would cover it.
We can do it within the CIP budget, yes.
Mhm.
So that's why my big push was I didn't want it to be one project versus the other, because I know the issues we had with snowmaking when we turned it on this year. And I don't see that getting any better when we go to turn it on next year, if it's just slowly deteriorating. And like you said, soaking into the water, into the ground instead of going into the guns.
I
Didn't
think
Ken
the sooner
say,
we do it, it's gonna save us more money. I mean, it's only gonna get worse and worse and worse. If
Yeah.
if it's the whole system wide. So my suggestion would be to, get a contractor online. Let's get a contract signed and move forward on it.
26 of the $1,000 is in that fund right now under the line item of replacing the groomer. Now, that groomer is how old to us?
2 years, right?
Ryan got it a couple of years ago.
A year and a half,
Year and a half.
2 years? Yeah, I mean, was this our second winter with that groomer?
Yes.
No, it says 2020 is when we,
Did we get
Yeah,
it the last winter for the 2020 season?
Yes,
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 Okay, and then we had it for this ski season.
right.
correct.
Yep.
Okay, so
So
it's,
two ski seasons, less than 2
Okay.
years old. Yeah,
so
2 years to us.
and that money was left over from the purchase and equipping of
Right.
that.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. You gotta fix those leaks. You just can't have that water. And I think it was Ken Mack or somebody said that they're amazed that the pipings last that long because it was used when
Right.
it was purchased to put in the hill. So it's, it doesn't owe the town anything. I mean, if you're gonna get set up there, I think I would be inclined to the Papoose Trail, that 800 feet or whatever it is. It's about 800 feet, I guess,
Mhm.
for that $5,000 or whatever is just, when you're all set up there, it'd be silly not to make that loop and have it done. Then to come back in 2 years and have to set up to do it again, if, so.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, the money is in the capital reserve fund in that line item or in that, ski slope designated for the ski slope of $26,000. So that would cover
Okay.
replacing the existing and adding the 800 feet.
Yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that.
All
okay.
right.
We'll
So-
we'll
so
move
there's
forward
that
then.
side.
Yeah.
As far as the parking lot upgrades, I guess I want to go out and physically look at that. I know we don't have to make a decision tonight.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you want to, Jack, but let's
Yep, I definitely will.
do we want to do that as a public
Yeah, do
session?
you
That's
want-
how we did it last time. We went out there and walked that piece of land across the street and, did it as at a, whatever, 5:30 or 5 o'clock, right before one of our regular meetings and published that we were going to be there. We could do it like that in public, or you could go out when you want. I could go out when I want. We could discuss it.
Have you walked the smaller piece across the street, Jack? Have you seen?
No, I have not.
Yeah, so that might be, obviously OJ and Tammy have, but so Jack should see that as well as what, so I can have Nate, myself, Tara can meet singly or as a group. We can see that.
Yeah,
Should we
I
go
met
walk?
with Nate last week for an hour or two. We went around through the sewage treatment facility and the wells, town wells and things like that. So I'll make an appointment with Nate at his discretion to go see that and get a
You might
feel.
want to grab Tara to go along as well. I'd suggest that too.
I'll ask her to come along. I won't grab her to come along.
Yeah,
And
it's
I will
just,
say it's going to be a little more pleasant than the sewer treatment plant.
Thanks, Tara.
I've toured both, so I can.
okay, that's good. All right.
All right, next on the, thank you, Tara. Next on the agenda is a discussion of the summer music at the gazebo. Last year, we had a request from One Love Brewery. Michael, how you doing?
Oh, Jay, how are you, sir? How's everybody?
And so you're looking to do that again?
We are, yes.
Anything you want to tell us?
Well, I think that the gazebo is a great community centerpiece, and there's talk about having a permit fee every single time of $50. Last year, what we really found was this is really much of a community event. A lot of people that were not our guests did bring their lawn chairs and they camped outside. They brought their own picnic, and it was really a great thing. We started putting the people in the gazebo just because the heat was really too much for them in the summertime. And it was really conducive to a centerpiece. We feel that putting entertainment in the gazebo really enhances the town. It's a free activity for our guests to come and our visitors. Woodstock does the same thing in their gazebo, but their town pays for that music, which was brought up last year. So that's just what we want to do. We want to do on Thursdays, not the weekend.
What night does Woodstock do? A Saturday night still?
Saturday, yeah.
Yeah.
Saturday.
And as
All
far
right.
as I know, there were no issues, and no damage. So from a town standpoint, I think given this crazy year and the year that continues, is we can do it, with One Love willing to pay for the music. I think it's a good cooperative effort myself, but
They sell 5 beers and that pays for the music, right, Michael?
Yep. We also recognize that there's a beautification. So we reseeded all the grass today with grass seed, hoping that it does rain. And I just have to replace one little piece and then we'll start being able to water it. My outdoor spigot is leaking. And so I have not turned that on, but that will be done tomorrow. So we're looking for, was it June 3rd to October 7th on Thursdays.
OJ, excuse me,
Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
make that in the form of a motion that we grant the permit?
What, but can I just, hi, I'm sorry, guys, I don't have the camera.
Yeah, go ahead.
Carol Bahant wanted me to bring to your attention This is a special event permit like we do with Mr. Avery for his maple syrup.
Mhm.
And we, for some reason, I think there was a lot going on last year, but when Carol was looking at the permit, because I questioned what is the fee? And the application fee is $100 for profit sponsors. And then underneath it says $50 per additional day shall be added. Hold on, I can't read it. Shall be added to the one-day event. So in other words, $50 every time they want to have that. So when Mr. Avery sells it, like over the course of the summer, he would pay his initial fee and then $50 thereafter for every other day he's selling his maple syrup. So I guess what you would have to do, I believe what the Snyders are asking is for you to waive the $50 per event, that weekly fee. Is that correct, Michael? And just pay the $100 to have that for the special event permit.
That is correct.
So you would have to waive.
Yeah, would have to make a motion to not only allow it, but to waive the
Correct.
fees. Yeah. You know,
Correct.
kind of the way I see this is they're providing a service that other towns pay for. You know, and that we're opening up that music to the public, you know, our taxpayers and our visitors.
So
And-
Mike, I'm sorry.
And yeah, and that you know, there's no cost to the town of hiring the music, that he's going to do that. So I don't see an issue with that.
So Michael, as far as the liquor permit and stuff, that would still be, people couldn't walk in and then come back in and around the gazebo with drinks from your establishment. That would,
No, they can't. What we did last year is we had a clear defined perimeter that if you cross that line, you know you did that.
Okay.
We did put signs around the gazebo that said, first of all, we have signs that says no alcohol beyond this point. We put a sign in the gazebo that says no alcohol allowed in this gazebo, town property. So we had clear present signage, and people honestly did still do that. And we were right there. We had our hostess stand right there. They were kindly reminded, and everybody complied. It was,
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
and Chad is on. I don't believe we had any issues because we do have a no alcohol on town property. You know, at least even our lease property. So, yeah.
Go ahead, Jack.
Michael, a couple of questions. How many concerts did you run last year, or venues?
I don't have that actual number, but we did every Thursday from June until beginning of October.
The same as what you're asking for this year.
Correct.
And there's no police detail, I assume?
There is none. We don't think one's required at all. We have,
Okay.
our managers and our staff posted there at that walkway at all times. We didn't have a single issue last year at all.
And what was the average size of the crowd that was there?
Our crowd, we limited our crowd extensively because it was during the COVID thing, which we're still a part of. Our inside restaurant was completely closed. We lost revenue, and the landlords were gracious enough to allow us to have the grassy area with the caveat that it's clean. We picked up and it looked neat and orderly. But quite honestly, it was very small. We were very much policing the area to a fault. Our view is that we don't have to make $1 million. We understand we're in this pandemic, but we still have to get a little piece. So we lost a lot of revenue. We lost a lot of tables.
Mhm.
What about, what would your estimate be of the crowds that were there that were not waiting for tables or being seated at your restaurant, just, you know, strollers by?
There was a lot actually. And there was a lot of people that sat to the front and side that actually came in and put their lawn chairs in the middle. And they had like maybe 1 or 2 beers. They did buy from us, but it wasn't a revenue generating thing. They were just there to get a better seat and enjoy the music. So we would probably have about 10 people per time sitting there as guests, not as.
And I think what this, if you approve this setup, we'll have to, probably with Ron and Chad's assistance, we'll have to make sure we get signage that current, whatever the current COVID distancing, social distancing and stuff, that people voluntarily adhere to that, and that would help Mike out a little too, but we're still gonna have to be cognizant of that as well.
Sure. If you or anybody else listening has ever come to our restaurant in the last 6 months, you would see us go above and beyond.
Yeah,
what we
I
require.
know. I know that, Mike. It's outdoors on the lawns, what I'm concerned about, kind of out of your control, the gang that might show up, so. Chad's on. Chad, do you want to chime in at all on this?
I actually disagree respectfully. It is in our control because we have the property, we have the manpower, and we have the politeness. And people have options and they don't want to abide by our rules and our policies, then they're invited to go down the road.
Yep.
Be quite honest with you, this is our house, our rules, and we're going above and beyond anybody in town, be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Go ahead, Jack.
I would put the burden on Mr. Snyder to, come up with the appropriate verbiage of various signs and what have you. And I'll make the motion that you suggested, OJ, that we charge initial fee of 100 and then waive the remaining $50 per venue fee.
Okay, and I'll second that. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies listening. I appreciate your time today.
Okay,
Thank
Mike.
you, Michael.
Thanks.
Thank you. Cheers.
All right. Next is town manager's report. And I know there were some things last week. I don't know if you have a town manager's report for this week, but there were some things last week that we didn't get to talk about.
I may have incorporated them.
Oh, do you have a town manager's report for this week?
I do. I thought you should have got it.
Maybe I did.
Okay, you want me to start down through it?
Yeah.
All right, first thing, I have a street sweeping is scheduled for the week of April 24th, weather
Yeah.
permitting. Okay, that's the first thing. The Beechwood Road bond, we wanted to know if the wording of the warrant article, and if you should have been sent a copy, and it says roads, Beechwood roads, plural, and checking, DRA says it's more than one road, so roads. So if it was part of the Beechwood One project, we can use those monies to finish up on that. So that was the answer to that.
Yeah. I saw it says Beechwood One roads, drainage and utilities. And
Yes.
most of what we want to spend money on is the drainage work.
And some utilities,
Yeah, but-
could be.
Well-
We may run into utilities, so we have to, yeah.
Well, with that being said, will our town crew be able to do that drainage project into that retaining wall this season?
Nate says he can. He's gonna,
Does
in
he-
fact, they're gonna get at it as soon as he lifts the bands off the road. They're gonna start working on that road. And he's been in contact with the condo association. I'm not sure we've heard back from them, but we can do our portion. And he's confident that his crew can get that done. And
Okay, do we
with an
need,
expected paving before the October 31 deadline, I think, in our agreement with the
right,
landing folks. Yep.
okay. And do we need an engineer to do any work on that? Or is it just replacement but with a bigger pipe?
He doesn't feel that it needs engineering of any, it's pretty defined. According to them, that's pretty straightforward what's got to be done there and to get it ready for grinding and shim and
Okay.
overlay. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So he's confident he can do it. So they're prepared to go as soon as the bands come off and he can work at it through the summer. Yep.
And he's looking at a $40,000 price tag?
Ish, yep, right in the wheelhouse, so.
Okay.
And the extra monies left over from the project are gonna take a big step forward, barring unforeseen like anything, when you.
Right, you don't
dig-
know what you're gonna see when you dig
Right,
under the
yeah.
ground, but,
Yep,
Okay.
yep. So I
um,
think we're good to go.
Jack, is that acceptable?
Oh, yeah, fine.
Yeah.
No, I'm fully on board with that.
Okay, Freedom Energy, you asked me to check into that.
Yeah.
We sent you, I copied you on an email
Yep.
from the Freedom Energy folks. House bill, the House bill that's going through is the key part to them being able, we, along with their customers, just need that legislation in place and it was moving through the current legislature without a lot of resistance, so they were just hoping would pass, but they need, so they're waiting on that legislation. And I can't remember what the House bill was, but it's moving through the legislature. So, yep, that's the update there. Pleasant Street easement, Denise Harradine, I talked with Judith McCann. I just saw today Carol's involved somehow. I don't know why, but she is. But hey, the school is moving forward with drafting a whole new easement. I guess on advice of their council. It's my understanding they're handling it. And they're working directly with Denise to provide materials like a drawing of where she wants her driveway and all that. And so they're putting that together with their attorney. So it's moving forward. And they will register the easement once it's done.
Okay,
Question on that. Didn't she say in the email that she thought it had to go for a warrant issue?
It was all done. The school voted in this last
In the
town meeting.
warrant? Yeah, so the warrant passed. So
Yes.
now they can draft the
They
easement.
can, now it's just a
Okay.
matter of working with attorneys and getting it
Yeah,
drafted.
all right.
Yep. So we've already talked about the short-term rentals. The West Street Road Repair Project was gonna crank up again with kickoff June 15th. They're gonna, AJ Coleman will be in to start, pick up where we left off on that project. So that project's back on. I just did the contract with them and so we're good to go. So that's gonna start on June 15th. We'll start notifying folks, or if they have actually probably have already, the public works guys are getting around, start notifying folks on the street that the construction's coming back. And the town hall, we had an evaluation. New Hampshire Electric Co-op worked with a company called EEI Energy Effective Infrastructure. It's a company that they use to evaluate buildings. They did a similar project over at the community center for making it more heat and energy efficient. We had a visit from them. Nate and I physically walked around with the gentleman. We should see a report and an estimated cost on to bring our building up to energy standards as well as air quality standards before I spend any more money on replacing heating and AC units. And the gentleman that was there said that's a good idea. They've got much more efficient machines and stuff today, as well as obviously there'd be some work has to be done to tighten the building up and things. And it's quite timely because the building review committee is talking about, whether we want to move forward with a complete new town hall fire police complex, or leave town hall where it is. If we leave town hall where it is and upgrade it to standards, so that air quality and stuff is good, then the town hall business between that whole building could be handled quite easily with the police and fire relocated. So anyway, so that's been done and we're just waiting on that report. And
Butch, did he mention available grants to do some of that work?
yeah, New Hampshire Electric Co-op has a grant program. They do a lot of that, Jack. In fact, the community center stuff we're doing through becomes part of your electric payments. So there was some upfront money, but not huge. And then over a period of years, it just comes out of your.
They take it out of the savings to pay back.
Yep. That's all I have, OJ, unless you have something else. Yeah.
Um, there's a few other things that we need to talk about. One is we got a letter from someone who's interested in being a trustee of the trust fund. Did you get a copy of that, Jack?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know if you had time, but I looked at his letter and his website, and he seems like a extremely qualified person to be be on that. Do you know him?
I do. I
Oh,
have
you
a
do?
signed copy of his last book.
Oh.
And yeah, he's got a doctorate from MIT, and he's taught both at Harvard and at Yale economics. His daughter is actually part of a program that we have at the Mountain. And he moved up here permanently, lives on Governor's Lane. Vikram Manshramani is his name. Wonderful person, very intelligent. His wife is an attorney, started a Montessori school down in Boston. So he wants to get involved in the town, and feels this would be a good place to start. And I think he'd be a real asset to the committee, working with Gene and Dr. Herb.
I mean, I don't know him, but just reading what he sent and looking at his website, I would say so. I'd like to meet him, but if you know him personally, I would certainly trust your judgment and his resume and all to appoint him to the Board of Trustees.
So I'll make a motion to appoint him to the as a trustee of the trust.
Perfect. I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. The next thing is, I know Ron did a summary of the South Peak water usage based on comparing the actual houses built there and bedrooms and bathrooms versus the basis of design bedrooms and bathrooms, in that 27 house limit that triggers the water tank construction is based on 27 of whatever average houses.
Four
And-
bedroom. Yep. 27 4-bedroom homes.
That's the basis of design.
Yep.
Okay, and what's up there is more than 27 times 4?
Yeah, we're at 26 right now. Well, when you count up the bedrooms
Yeah,
and what's under construction, that would be 22 lots total,
okay,
which equals 26 homes because they've been allowed to build larger homes with more bedrooms.
okay.
So the aggregate water consumption based on the 150 gallons per day per bedroom equates to 26 homes, which in the documentation for the South Peak approval, once they built the 26th home, they would start installing the tank for the 27th home to go online, I believe is the way it's written.
All right, so we can call it, right now, there's 26 equivalent homes.
Yep.
That's good to know. I don't know if that's gonna help us get the tank built any sooner, but
Oh,
sure would be nice.
Right.
Well, question for you, OJ.
Yeah, go ahead.
If they don't comply with the existing document, then can we get a cease and desist order on the construction over there due to the fact that they have not made, progress towards building the tank?
Yeah, I would say that, I don't know if it would be a cease and desist, or it would just be that we would not issue any other land use.
Any land use permits? Okay, yeah.
Right, just wouldn't be issuing them.
Yeah.
Now, I do know that there is talk that they might come back to the planning board to discuss another
Yeah,
proposal.
what they were already in, if you remember, OJ,
Yeah,
they
remember
were already in once. they'd be coming back basically with the same proposal where they would upgrade the existing pump station to pressurize, help me out here, Ron, 14,
It'd be a total of 44 homes.
yeah,
So,
but there's an
yeah.
additional, above the 950, I think it's an extra initial 14 house lots.
Yep.
They would just supply, with an upgraded pump station, they could supply water pressure to 14, but there'd still be no fire protection. And I think what's getting Ron really nervous now, and I don't want to speak for him because he's capable of speaking for himself, but we're at a point where those homes are so big and nobody's building a small one, nobody. And the elevation issue and the is problematic. So we think, and I agree with Ron, and I kudos to him for taking the time. It is clear to me that at least on the basis of design, they've exceed, the extra size homes that are being approved have the equivalent usage that you would have got out of 26 homes at 4-bedroom has easily been already exceeded actually with what's under construction. So I think Jack's right. I'm sure given what we do, it does mean legal action, unfortunately, but I think we're there, and I don't know. So something for the board to ponder
Well,
with some direction.
this is going to be a legal issue, so I want to be real careful.
Yeah,
If if Ron's calculated this to be 26, the limit, I believe they can build 27, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so I don't know how many bedrooms are left. I don't know if it's just 3 or if there's 4.
One more home,
One
more
more
4-bedroom home.
4-bedroom home.
And they'll
coming
be at,
online, or is that already, did you take in the ones that have been permitted under construction?
I did.
Ron, or
I did.
you did?
Yep.
So one more.
One
Okay.
more permit, 4-bedroom home, and they'll be at their 27 limit within the high pressure zone. That doesn't include the lower road. So we're only
Right.
talking Crooked Mountain Road between the 2 PRVs, the
Right,
pressure reducing vaults, and Hemlock Drive.
right.
Yep.
All right,
So we really can't look at limiting South Peak Road because that's below the 950 elevation, and
right,
Exactly.
right.
but there are a fair amount of lots still to be built on along Crooked Mountain Road.
Well, I just don't want to jump the gun that gets us into
Right.
court for
Yeah.
a
Right.
irrelevant reason. Wait for one more 4-bedroom house and issue that permit, but otherwise reject anything after that or reject anything more than 4 bedrooms. Someone
Would it
comes
be-
in,
Yeah. Would it be worth inviting them in for a discussion
Yeah.
about this so that they're on notice that, and they can dispute my calculations if they want?
Yeah.
That way it's out there and everything's on the table. That way they're not blindsided,
Yeah. Yeah, Jack?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Let's sit down and just at least talk, put them on notice, show them your calculations, and say, if you disagree, get your engineer in here to give me a report, and I'll have a town engineer review it before we have to end up in litigation. As I said
I would
before,
suggest we
negotiate
invite
something, litigate.
I would suggest we invite the ARB, the Architectural Review Board up there, approve these homes before we ever see them.
Well,
They-
let's do
those-
both. I mean,
Yeah.
The ARB is working in lockstep with CRVI.
Yeah. And one thing that did happen, I don't think we should mention the name, but one of the house lots on Hemlock that wanted to finish his basement, it was denied by the ARB. But then the president of CRVI overrode the ARB and allowed that person to add 2 more bedrooms and 2 more bathrooms in the basement of that home, which brought him up to 8 bedrooms, I think 6 bathrooms, 6.5 bathrooms in one home. So that clearly shows that CRVI, they fully understand what they went through to get their site plan approval. And the ARB did make an attempt at upholding the threshold limits to a certain degree, but was overridden by CRVI. So that's why I'm saying that we should bring them all in and have this discussion. We're well aware of what you're doing, where you're at. Tell us what your next step's going to be.
And should that be with Ken Belanger or CRVI or both?
All
CR
three, CRVI,
Yeah.
Ken Belanger, and the ARB, which would be
ARB,
David
yeah.
Yeager as the head person for the ARB.
Okay, because I think Ken Belanger is the official developer and owner of those lots. Whether he's
Yep.
with CRVI, affiliated, whatever, but
Yep.
he's the person on record as
Mhm.
far as the owner of those lots, or the
Yeah.
manager of the LLC that
Right.
owns those lots.
Well, and that tank is also tied to future development in the South Mountain parking lot area also, because they won't have the needed fire flow for the resort community without that tank. That was all part of that site plan approval.
That's
So
correct.
that's why I'm saying CRVI still needs to be part of the conversation, because they still retain ownership of
That's
portion.
true. That's a good point. The other thing is the water tank report that we're having done right now by Weston and Sampson. One of the things they identified was a tank over in that area, but a higher elevation would benefit the town.
Mhm.
And we have $1 million in a grant ready to move on that. We previously offered CRVI to work together in building a bigger tank at a higher elevation that fits their needs and benefits the town. And they immediately rejected that. I don't know if now that Ken Belanger's involved and the homeowners association is involved, that discussion might go further.
It's worth
But
a try. Yeah.
Jack, I don't know if you know this, and this was
You've
part of
mentioned this, I've heard you mention this
Yeah.
before. And I think it's a great idea to bring them all to the table, put all the cards on the table, let them know exactly what the town's position is, what the fire chief's calculations are, so that everybody's playing by the same rules. I mean, they can't say, well, we didn't know this or we didn't know that. Now you lay it out for them. Here it is, folks. This is the reality. You can go to court if you have to, but we'd rather work it out at the table.
All right, well, let's see if we can get a meeting set up. And again, I'm not going to be here on the 19th. I don't know if we can do it as soon as next week, but if we can do it after the 19th would be better for me.
Sure.
Okay. First week of May? First,
Sure.
okay, we'll look at a date. We'll send out an invite and this is to the Board of to meet with the Board of Selectmen from an enforcement standpoint.
I would talk to the three key parties
Yeah,
and tell them what we want to do and ask if they want to get together, as opposed to establishing a date and then sending them an invitation. They don't even know what
right,
they're being invited to.
Mhm.
okay,
So talk to them, and yeah, I'd say anytime next month would be good.
okay, all right. Sounds good. We'll do that.
All right. Butch had sent us an email about a proposed contract from Skip Sansucci.
Yes, Skip has apparently is getting into the assessing. Well, he's our representative for the utilities assessments, and so now he's taken on a national project of ski resorts because of across the country. They're kind of unique, and I guess the way he explained it, and he wanted to propose to the town that, and he's apparently been in touch with our assessors, and to see if the town split out the ski resort work, he would be willing to take that over. Not to muscle in on, he's not interested in the real estate, condos and houses and stuff like that, but commercial property of resorts. I think he's doing Bretton Woods has signed on for his services and stuff. So he offered it up. He sent the draft contract. He said he's willing to meet with the board to discuss in detail, or answer questions. And so I said I'd give it to you guys and see where you wanted to go with it.
All right. Jack, I don't know if you know, we have an assessing company that does all of the assessments and the whole
I
time.
am familiar with them. Yep.
Okay. We then have a second guy, this Skip Sansucci, who for us and basically all in New Hampshire, I believe, does just the utilities. So all of his assessments are related to PSNH, well, Eversource, the co-op, telephone, all of the utility
yeah.
poles, all of that stuff. And he's the one who's representing us in court, and we're combining with a group of towns over some of the assessments of the electric and telephone. So the proposal here is to do the ski area. Right now, that's included in our contract with Comerford Nita Perkins. Not, I got the wrong company, right? Who does the assessments?
Coming for Nita. Yeah.
It is, all right. I
Yeah.
keep getting them mixed up with the auditors.
Vashon and Kluge are the auditors.
Oh, that's all right, okay. I
Right.
keep getting those two mixed up.
Yep.
Anyway, so this would be taking it out of the regular assessors and putting it with the utility assessor. One of the questions I had is we're right now going through reval, and Comerford Nita Perkins is doing that. I assume that because it was in the contract, they're doing the ski area. They're doing everything except for the utilities, correct?
Right, and it's going to take them most of 2021 to do our town. And I think the plan, excuse me, I believe the plan is if the board went with Sansu, they would split that off and he would do this current year. I believe.
All right. I guess just one of the questions I have is we've already signed the contract.
Yeah, and that's a question I did not ask him how that would work. Excuse me.
I'd wonder if we're going to get a rebate or a reduced amount from the current contract if we take this chunk out, because we're going to have to pay him to do it. Not that he would do it for the exact same price, perhaps, but you don't take away a big bulk of work and say, oh, we'll pay you the same amount. So
I think that makes sense. So I didn't ask that question, OJ.
okay, Jack.
Yeah, that was one of the questions. I would have the same question. But the other thing is, if he would love to do this, let him be a subcontractor to the current contract, with that company. Let him cut his own deal with them rather than with us. I mean, and then, fine, if they feel that he's doing a sufficient job at a rate that's costing them an equal amount of money, then they can turn that over to him next time. He can come in as a separate entity and bid on that alone, or what have you.
Yeah, I think he's a special, I think he's going to get in a little deeper than current assessors. I think, yeah. He talked, we only talked briefly, but he said some of the stuff is at the ski area is being overassessed. However, there's a lot not being assessed that is in the ground. And, he mentioned the basis for towers as a structure. The tower itself is not taxable because it can be removed. It can be taken away, things like that. So he's specializing on those areas. So there's gives and takes, and that the current assessors, it's not in their wheelhouse. So
Okay, and does he have a proposed contract, or is this just all verbal right now?
there's a proposed I think you got the proposed contract. I think I forwarded that to you guys via email. If I did not, in fact, I know I did, but I'll resend it. It was a while back that I sent it to you guys, so it was in an email.
Okay,
There is a contract.
I've not read it. Jack, have you read?
No, sir, I haven't.
All right, can you
Right,
send
let
that
me
out?
look. I may be mistaken,
Okay,
but there is a contract, OJ. Yes.
all right.
In fact, you guys keep talking. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up. I will do that and get it to you, but,
I'm not gonna read it tonight, so
oh, okay.
skip over that, because I wanted to know just a couple of other things. One thing is, Kristen had come to us with a payment plan and a request to abate, like $20 of interest. We abated the interest,
Yeah,
but said that the payment plan wasn't adequate because it was never gonna catch up. Like, it would always be
Right.
paying like in arrears, like forever. I didn't know if that got relayed to the taxpayer and if there was any further.
I've heard nothing further. It
All
should
right.
have got, it should have got relayed to the taxpayer, but I have not heard from Kristen.
Okay, can you just make sure that she gets the message and that we're kind of looking for a
Update.
counter proposal?
Okay. Okay, tax catch up. Yep. Okay.
All right, do you have anything to report from the hearing with Nelson? There was a court hearing just of procedural kind of stuff on last Wednesday. I don't know if Jason updated you or,
He did not.
okay, all right. It
I've
was,
not got an update.
it
No,
was just on a couple of motions. It wasn't the court case. It was just a couple of motions. I just didn't know if we had heard anything.
no.
Um, that was all I had. Jack, do you have anything?
No, no, sir.
All right. Is there anything that we need to meet about in non-public, Butch?
I think there are.
Yeah,
Okay,
We had the meeting before last week's meeting wasn't canceled, and we were talking about a settlement issue.
oh,
we could update some of those. That's, yeah, we probably should do that.
right. We reached an agreement on the assessment case with Y Birch.
Correct.
And it was discussed with our attorney, but we needed to do that in public and to make a motion and accept. And we were gonna do this last week.
And then there were some language changes that were redlined to us today.
That was in another case. That's, yeah.
No,
Now that,
no, that was.
That was
it.
by Birch.
That was Y Birch.
Yeah.
What we need to do though is to make a motion on the amounts. And I had that with me here, but I don't see it in front of me. Oops, that's CRVI. I'm getting them mixed up here too.
I know.
Do you have the Y Birch ones in front of you?
I'm gonna try to pull them up right now.
Because we need to make that,
Was it 1.4 plus 200 plus 200?
yeah, but we have to do the assessment, not the fair market value,
Okay.
which was, once we adjusted them, they were odd numbers.
I think John had calculated those, correct?
Yeah, I looked at our calculations. Okay, I got them right here.
Okay.
And I'll do this in the form of a motion that the two sides have reached an agreement in the assessment of the Y Birch Kids LLC property. We reached this through mediation prior to going to court, which was scheduled coming up here. And I'll make a motion that we set the assessments at the following amounts. For the year 2016, $1,306,300. For 2017, 1,356,300. For 2018, 1,406,300. For the year 2019, 1,456,300. For the year 2020, 1,506,300. And for the year 2021, $1,556,300.
I'll second that motion.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and that then agrees with the settlement, and we're authorizing Jonna to abate the taxes based on those new assessment values.
All right, good.
Glad you reminded me of that.
And now, can you discuss in general terms, the red line copy of the CRVI settlement? I think, I mean, no, we still need to discuss that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's still Y Birch.
That's my Birch, yeah.
yeah. And if you don't have any changes, then that makes it in the actual agreement.
Did you look at the red line version, Jack?
I did. I had no
And-
problems with it.
I had no problems with it, and our attorney said she didn't have any problems with it, so we're good
I'll
with
make
it.
a motion to approve the red line changes as presented to the board.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. I'll send Brooke a yeah, email tonight so that can get done. Okay, great.
All right, then I'll open up for public participation. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I just have a couple of comments, as Jack would say, hopefully quick ones. The access for the town hall, it's not really for the selectmen that people were concerned about. It was for the general public. And I believe it was last week. No, it wasn't last week. It was the week before, because last week, yeah, no one could get on. But Tammy said that once vaccines were accessible, town hall would open. And she was pretty firm about that. And as I thought most of the board was. And as everybody should know that, last Friday, vaccines were open to people 16 and older. As a matter of fact, today they were giving the J&J ones down at the drugstore down there. I think they had a limited supply, but anyway, it just seems like, maybe town hall ought to be opening a little sooner than a little later. And I think everybody has made that comment. Can you tell me what the red line changes were? I have no idea what that was, but it seems like you accepted them, and I don't know that the general public knows much about what that was. But seeing as how you accepted them, is there any type of information you can give out with regards to that? Were they just tax abatements, OJ?
Yeah, this is a tax
Tax abatement.
assessment. It was an assessment issue, yeah.
I think once now that the final edits and the signatures from both Y Birch and the board then it's public record after
Public
that.
record.
Yeah, so, yeah.
So OJ, I mean, without you having to look it up, I guess if I can just contact the town hall. They could give me that information, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a,
Until it's signed, it's still a legal.
yeah, true. And we've agreed to it. I mean, but once it's signed, it's gonna be a public document. I just don't have it in front of me to read. I'm trying, because it came from Brooke Shiloh. Okay, here it is right here.
I can wait till it gets signed, OJ, and that way
Yeah.
there you don't have to
Yeah.
deal with it tonight. That's fine with me.
All right.
Um,
I say it's one paragraph. I'll read it to you right now. Pursuant to RSA X amount, Birch has tax appeals regarding the assessment of the taxable real estate associated with 6 Birch Circle, Lincoln, New Hampshire, tax map number for the years 26 through 19 pending before the Grafton Superior Court in the above referenced dockets. Birch has also recently submitted an abatement application for tax year 2020 to the Board of Selectmen, which would be added to this. And to the Birch and the town wish to resolve all issues regarding the assessment of the property for 2016 through 2020 and resolve the issues regarding the assessment of the property until the town puts in place its next general townwide revaluation currently estimated to take effect in 2022.
so they're just gonna get an abatement on their 2019 assessment?
16, 17, 18,
18 and
19, 20, and 20, well, 21 won't be abated because they haven't paid the full taxes yet. But then
And do we know how much the abatement is? Do you know how much the abatement is? I'm sorry if I missed that.
I don't know what the original numbers were
right.
that they came down from. But we agreed that we had it over assessed. It was agreeing on how much lower we should go.
Right.
And
I would think that that's why they want to go to, yeah,
Right. And there was also agreement that they had made improvements to the property since 2016, but the rate that we put in each year for added improvements was above what they agreed with.
okay.
There's one other paragraph and it talks about releasing and discharging them and us from counterclaims related to this.
That's fine. I don't need any of that. I was just looking, I was just interested in how much was abated on their taxes, that's all. But I can find that out later, I guess. The last thing that I had is that while I've had some conversations with Ron about this Centex and South Peak units that they have and where they're at in regards to, you know, the supposed installation of their tank. They're in their basis of design, they used a 600 gallon per day per unit. Most units will not use 600 gallons per day. So even though you're taking the culmination of that, and I think I sent you all, you know, you guys that stuff too. It's still, there's some numbers there that are slightly conflicting a little bit. So I personally agree with Ron that they are in the agreement that was made. It says that they will have an aggregate water consumption equivalent to 27 units, you know, but their 27 units is at 600 gallons per day. And I know that stretches out over, as Ron said, you know, the total amount, but I think it's a good thing that the town's having the discussions to bring them in. So that's all I'm saying is that I think it's great that you're trying to bring them in because I think it's going to help the town with their water situation.
Paul,
And I think,
nope, I'm sorry.
no, and I think that the town should look at where they could get the best bang for their buck with that water tank. Because the town obviously is going to have to, it would be in their best interest to contribute and help where they could to get the best result out of it. But their higher elevation is probably their better place. I don't know if that's the village or where it is, but I mean, there are some higher elevation parts that this could help out a lot better, I think.
Agreed. Go ahead, Jack.
I was just going to say, Paul, the 600 gallons per day comes from the calculation of 1 bedroom equals 150 gallons per
Right.
day. 4 times 4 is 600 gallons per household per day, based on a 4-bedroom unit.
Right, but even a 6-bedroom unit to use 600 gallons per day is 600 gallons per day is a lot of water.
Well, 6-bedroom would be 900 gallons.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, you know, if you take a look around, you'd probably be pretty hard pressed to find someplace that uses actually in actuality that under, again, we don't have meters, and I understand that, but to use 600 gallons a day is a lot of water. but anyway, I think it's good that you're looking at that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, anyone else for public participation? Ron or Chad, do you have anything for us? No?
I'm good.
All right.
I'm
is there
good.
any- All right, thanks, Chad. Is there anything we need to meet in non-public for? That, Jack, I'm glad you brought up making that motion because that was a last week's agenda thing and
Yeah.
I forgot about it. Is there anything else that we need to be?
We do. We have
Oh.
the other issue that we were talking about in non-public session prior to us not having a general meeting.
Meeting, okay.
You all set with CRVI?
That's where we're going with this.
I think that's what he wants to talk
Yeah.
about.
That's what I want to talk about. Yep.
Yeah. Let's go into non-public just to
Yep.
update on that.
Yep.
All right, I'll make a motion to go into non-public to discuss a litigation issue, ongoing litigation issue.
Second emotion.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, Ron, can you